signals out into the field. And like I was saying earlier, most of us have like a 4 to 5 foot field. That field called biofield, aura, electronic belt. Bio means two. And so there's a radiation that goes out, but then there's also a magnet that comes back to us. And that goes back to what you're saying earlier with Buddha. It's like we only get what we are. We only are what we are. We get that feedback to us. And so our thoughts, what we're talking about, and especially what we're feeling, also send a radiation. Every single organ has its own radiation. Our bones have a radiation, our cellular function, our mitochondria, our ancestral DNA, like all of that has an equation and a radiation. And then our heart has the biggest magnet of all of the things that I mentioned. And so there's this torrid of information that's constantly going out, but constantly coming in that obviously we're not necessarily seeing. I can see that with biofeedback. We could see what the field looks like and what's going on with the field. And there's a lot of cameras that can detect that, not only with transference of people standing next to each other, maybe someone's siphoning off, or giving. And they see that with plants too. They see it with animals, how there's these exchanges within people and plants and animals in the field. Again, we're about 4 to 5 feet. I have tested people up to 20 feet out. And it's amazing to me that the higher the consciousness a person has, the further out their field will extend and also transfer or pick up or create and within that field. Um, and the lower the consciousness, the shorter the field. Some of the people that I've tested, like 25, 100, their field can be like maybe an inch and also inverted, which means they cannot create or generate their own energy. They literally have to siphon off of other people to exist or feel alive, which sucks, literally. um, but yeah, I think the more people are aware and conscious and working on themselves and doing the inner work, that consciousness goes up and then they have a bigger influence. And it's also why the people who don't have that influence tend to use other tools to try to influence, whether it's a manipulation or control, or maybe it's bioengineering or entrainment of some sort, whether it's an entertainment or sports or um, some other type of tools to make people do what they need to do so they can feel alive, and all the bad stuff. So but yeah, that energy that we're creating is going out and it's radiating and then it's magnetizing. So like back to what we were talking about with your thoughts. If you're thinking really positive things, you're sending out a signal that's really, really positive, and you'll get positive people and or positive results and mirror that back to you and come back to you in a positive way. On a physical aspect with the naturopathic part, what's interesting is I have found that people who have parasites physically or mold or fungus, that is another entity within the body. And what it does is it sends a signal out basically saying, hey, this is a good host, cancel clear. And people will submit to that. And they're going to only submit to your lowest common denominator. So people who may be a good host for parasites send out an energy that they're a good victim. And then people will take advantage and they're not even realizing it maybe, and or they are realizing it and they're doing it anyway. And so we've been doing these group parasite cleanses now, and when we were doing like exit questions, I was asking all these random things, what are you seeing, what are you feeling, what are you experiencing, and people were like, you know what, that narcissistic boyfriend just like finally stopped calling me, or someone sent me money that they've owed me from 10 years ago, or, all of these weird things that seemingly felt, strange, were actually, again, an exact magnet of what they were putting out. And so when they took care of self-care and loved themselves, killed what needed to die, and eliminated that equation from the field, then only positivity was going out, and they were actually receiving loving, kind people who were
Yeah.
giving and having an actual partnership instead of this take, take thing, you
That
know?
goes right to one of the universal laws, the law of attraction. Whatever you put out, you receive. Whatever you reap, you will sow. It's basically what you put out, you get back. And if
Absolutely.
you put out positive thoughts, you're going to get back positive thoughts or energy. You put out negative energy, you're going to get back negative energy. Whatever you put out there, you're going to get back into your world. That's how you create your own reality. I think that kind of goes to your point of that's how your consciousness shapes your reality. If you're
Yeah.
thinking one way, you're going to get that thing in your life. You're creating it. You don't even realize it. That's the problem. I think so many people don't realize they're creating their own reality and the power they have of their own thoughts. The power of thought is massive.
It is massive. And again, to your point, for me, the way I was taught or growed, the way I grew up, it was things were happening. So if something bad happened, it was like, oh, here we go again. Something always bad happens, cancel clear. And they did it to me and those people, and they're always doing this thing and not seeing that I had any ownership in any of it. And
Yeah.
it's easy, I think, to make it everyone else's fault because then we don't have to do anything to change.
Exactly. You don't want to take responsibility. Nobody wants to take responsibility for their own reality. If you start to understand that, yes, you do have the responsibility and the ownership, that's actually a great thing because that means you can change your reality. If you want to
Absolutely.
improve your reality, know that you have that capacity to do it. It's not a burden, it's a great honor and capability to have.
Yes, and I think I spent a lot of wasted years. Well, I don't want to say wasted. It was Earth School for sure
Yeah.
to have those dark years where it was like, oh my gosh, and just feeling like again things were happening to me instead
To
of
me. Right.
realizing that I was doing all of it. And I'll give you an example. Like I love my mom so much, and and when something would happen, and still to this day sometimes, if I were to call her, and I love her so much, um if something is bad and I do call her, she'll say something like, oh my god, there's always something. And she doesn't mean it like there's always something positive. She means
Hmm.
it like expect something negative no matter what. Just expect it, because otherwise you're going to be disappointed. And like,
Right.
why? Because you're going to be disappointed anyway. So I've just remembered not to call anyone that's going to have that mindset, and not, again, nothing negative about where someone's at. They're just where they're at. And also, if I can call someone who is going to see me already in the miracle and in the outcome that I choose, then I'm going to want that participation, because whoever we're talking to, they're going to either add to the equation or take away from the equation. And they're
Hmm.
going to, that energy combines and is transferable. So, again, going back to the whole kind of like Murphy's Law attitude. It's like, oh, woe is me, and kind of like Eeyore on, Winnie the Pooh kind of thing.
Yep.
Um, it's like we can be like that, and then we just keep getting more and more and more, and then everyone agrees with us, and there's more and more and more. And what I find with social media, it's dangerous because you can
Oh,
post something out there, what, 200 people can agree with you quickly, and then you're just like, that's a standing wave now. I mean, you are not just doing your own standing wave, you have an energetic whole audience that's creating even more,
and
compounding
it's
even
reflecting
more.
back everything to you that you just put out.
It's
That's
a heavy investment.
yeah, that's proof positive. The problem with social media is that you're going to get so many people who are reflecting back to you all those negative comments that you put out there. I mean, just scroll on a social media and just look at all the negativity that's rampant out there. I mean, it's horrible. If you were a positivity doctor, let's say, I don't know if there is such a thing, but maybe there is. There should be. If you're a positivity doctor, you've got a lot of patients waiting.
It's true. And also, I kind of adapted. I was looking for a new adoption to the Murphy's Law thing, because I was like, let's not stay here in this standing wave. Like, let's create something else. And I was looking for a replacement, because if you try to resist whatever it is, then energy doesn't know the difference between real and fake and resistance. Energy is just energy. So the more you don't think about pink elephants, you're actually still putting it out there that there's pink elephants involved, which gets a match, right?
Right.
And so I was looking to just really find something simpler. And what I found is replacing was a lot easier, because then it was like cutting off the energy to this, starting a new energy to something else, putting that radiation out. So instead of thinking about pink elephants, let's think about I don't know, the Statue of Liberty. I mean, as fast as that, now you, anyone who's listening to me, you're seeing it, right? You
Yeah.
can like see her with, the torch, and she's in the middle of the water, and she's beautiful, and her hair, and it's all there, and that's creating a whole different energy just by making those different thoughts
Yeah,
within us.
and that's so important, because when people begin to realize that the mind can only hold one thought at a time, it's all about replacement. So if you're thinking one thing and you want to change, you want to realize you change it, it's not that your mind is going to constantly be thinking 20 things at once. It may feel that way, but your mind can only handle one thought at a time. So to your point of replacement, replace, say, a negative thought with a positive thought, and it's just as simple as that. You just replace whatever was, focus you were focusing on that happened to be negative, and you just change it to something positive. And to your point about the mind, the subconscious does not understand whether it's real or made up. It just knows whatever it's coming as true. If you keep on repeating it over and over and over and over again, then all of a sudden the mind takes it as true. So you keep on repeating something positive over and over and over again, and eventually the conscious mind takes it to be true. And they were doing this with Olympic athletes.
Yes.
They would, in their mind, they'd be doing the sport. In their mind, their imagination would do it, and the muscles would react, and they'd say, "My gosh, this is the body doesn't know whether they're really running the race or they're running the race in their mind. It just knows it's happening."
Yeah.
So that's the power of thought. That's how truly insanely powerful our minds are.
Yeah,
So
the this is the frontal lobe, and behind that is the limbic system. That's like kind of the librarian of emotions and what have you. And you're right. Like imagination or visualization. I like the word imagination too. Imagination is super powerful. And when whatever we're thinking about, we do create in an essence. And they have done a lot of studies with sports people who either sports or playing the piano or whatever. One person actually played for however many hours a day, and one person did exercises, and the other person just did it in their mind or just played in their mind. And um, they actually, like you said, had built muscle from imagination, and or learned songs with imagination. And it's pretty powerful. But going back to the replacement, I was trying to find something to replace, this always happens to me, this is terrible, whatever, or something to take over. And I remember, I think I was flipping through the channels or something, and something came up with Dr. Phil, of all people. And he was like, the best way to predict the future is to look at your past. And I was like, well, maybe that's a good replacement instead of everything always bad happens, And then I was like, well, what if you have a really crappy past? Like maybe that's not the best replacement, because then you just repeat it, be
mhm.
repeating something terrible. So I literally just thought in my mind, I'm like, okay, I choose to have like a replacement to put in that spot. And I was scrolling through on my phone or whatever, and Abraham Lincoln meme comes up, like literally poof, I don't know, synchronicities.
There you
And
go.
it was a quote that Abraham Lincoln said, and he said the best way to create the future, or the best way to predict the future, is to create it.
Ah, yes.
And I was like, oh man, that's a good one. So I like
Excellent.
that a lot better than Murphy's Law for sure.
Absolutely. That's because you're always creating your future in the now. That's why when Eckhart Tolle wrote The Power of the Now, it's so true because you can't do anything about the past. You can't do anything about the future because you're not there yet. The only thing you can do is do something in the now because you're creating in the now. You're creating everything that's happening. So every thing that's happening in the now, you're actually step by step creating your future self in the now. So that's
Absolutely.
what you were doing. You were creating.
Yeah. And he's actually one of the ones that I was saying had the biggest field. Like he is like 21 feet. I
Eckhart
can't.
Tolle, really?
Oh yeah,
Oh, wow. I
he's
can
got
see
a
that.
lot of presence and a lot of power within, his realm, a really high consciousness and a very big extension. Like I said, average is 4 to 5 feet. Some people I've tested pretty far. Um, Animals are interesting. Horses are 350 feet in their field. Like they
Wow.
are magicians. Like they can detect when things are coming and people can feel when they're coming. And then dolphins, they're unmeasurable. They have so much frequency that they have yet to be able to even measure, like the power that they walk in or they swim in or
Swimming.
whatever.
I've yet to see a walking dolphin, but never say never.
Yes, yes, yes. But they're actually using dolphins for pain, for people who are dealing with pain and chronic pain,
Interesting.
women having um, births with dolphins, something about the sonar pulsation that
Wow.
helps with physical pain in people. And they're putting like cancer patients like right in with a bunch of dolphins and people are reversing cancer. I mean, there's so much out there. There's just
There's
a
so
lot.
much we just don't know. So
Yes.
much we just don't know. I mean, what do you find? Are there any techniques? Are there any items like whether it's crystals or aromatherapy or biofeedback or what are some of the things that people might be able to work with aside from going to a dolphin that you think they might be able to to work with or exercise?
Yeah, for me, there's a thing called conversion disorder, which a lot of emotions that we have physically, the limbic system, um, if we'll process a lot of stimuli out and defrag between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. And things tend to stick a little bit more or have a little more stick with the body if they're more traumatizing or repetitive or sudden or something like maybe a coach did to us or a parent or something. We may not defrag that between the 3 a.m. and the 5 a.m. What the limbic system will do is go, hey, you know what? I think this is maybe not a good time to process, or maybe they're just not in a place where they can process. And so they put it in like a body part and they let it sit dormant. And it could be 6 minutes, 6 years, 6 decades. And what happens is if you are introduced to anything similar to that trauma, um, you'll start getting symptoms in the physical of that organ. And a lot of times we'll go to the doctor and they go, oh, here's some drugs and you won't feel that anymore and you're good to go, which isn't necessarily true. Um, just like any more than if you tried to go to a mechanic and you're like, hey, I really need my oil change. This light is just bugging me. It keeps flashing. And they're like, let's just unplug the light and you'll be good to go. It's like, not really gonna
Yeah,
work,
yeah.
but the limbic system has a lot to do with what we can process and what we can't. And with conversion disorders, a lot of physical issues are actually emotional issues that need purging, that are a message to say, like, hey, it's time for this to move out of the body. And I know I wasn't taught, I don't want to speak for everyone, I wasn't taught like when we have symptom that this is a message to clear that part of the body from whatever trauma or find out what the trauma was and clear it. But when we use things like biofeedback, we can look at emotions and we can see like, hey, what are these emotions and how are they connected to these physical issues? And let's clear the emotions and then the physical issues dissipate. Um, So, biofeedback is a great tool because it will not only tell you what's going on diagnostically through so many reports. I mean, we look at hormones, we look at chiropractic, we look at brain connections, we look at sensitivities, we look at today's stress, we look at like emotions, like I mentioned. Um, um, there's tons of things I'm not thinking of right now that they'll give these mass amounts of reports diagnostically, but then what they also do is they create customized frequencies based on those diagnostics, and we send them back to you. So they come to your field and your body, and they start like moving things out and or clearing things and or strengthening areas that need more support, so you send a better signal out to get the response that you're looking for. And again, it'll show like if you have parasites or fungus or Lyme, or it's like, oh, okay, well, we know how to kill that, and that's going to change the equation, and then you won't have those things coming at you anymore because the equation is gone and we have a new equation that gives a more positive result.
Interesting.
um,
What
so
about, red light or aromatherapy or ozone therapy? Do they do the same thing, or how are they different?
Yeah, I love all those things. I am fascinated and really enjoy working with all of the fun tools. I have this, what I've made up or got actually in like this download about having a lavender lightning experience and or concept. Lavender meaning the very natural things like herbs, nature, just going outside, getting sunshine, getting all the things, getting grounded, being in the earth, and using things like aromatherapy, which are frequency and is the blood of a plant and can go into your blood and your brain barriers, which will merge with you and your frequency and can bring you up to a higher frequency just by using it, depending
Hmm.
on what company you work with. I'll have to preface that just a little bit because there's a lot of really crappy fake oils that can be
Snake oil, perhaps?
yeah, like super toxic and can make the real stuff look bad because people have played around with all these fake things, and then they're
Yeah.
like, oh, oils are bad, and they just never had a good experience because they didn't use a real oil. But that has a lot of tremendous results, and it also has the ability to basically tell the limbic system dump all those assignments. And that was huge for me because I had like 28 traumas in my body when I first started this, and I was on 33 meds. I started using aromatherapy, and basically it tells the limbic system, you don't need those assignments anymore, can you just defrag all that? And I got off all my meds, I dropped 80
Wow.
pounds, I was feeling like $1 million, and it only took 16 weeks of me doing that. The other part is the lightning technology. So the lavender and the lightning to me is anything Tesla, anything electronics, anything high tech. The red light, the hyperbaric, the ozone, the infrared sauna, the PEMF, live blood analysis, things like that, that can help with the mitochondria, that can help cleanse the cells and or the body so the body can do what it was made to do, which is be a great machine to heal and to just function on its own without that. A lot of times there's interference through maybe electronics or food sensitivities, or maybe you're eating a bunch of crap food, or you're not getting that sunshine or whatever. So that those things that are mentioned on the lightning side can kind of jumpstart the body into a better opportunity to heal faster.
Hmm.
Cleansing the cells, giving light to the body, literally, and giving oxygen. Flooding the body with oxygen, because disease cannot live with oxygen. And so the more we can put oxygen in the body, the better chance we are to have ATP, which is energy, to feel good, to have the physiological, mental chemistry that supports us, to feel good and to have, a happy, smiley face and to be excited about life versus like, the whole Eeyore thing again.
I guess Eeyore was not high on ozone.
No, 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 no. I don't think he knew about ozone.
No, probably not. No, probably not. Well, this is absolutely fascinating. If there was one piece of advice or one takeaway you could offer a listener today, what one piece of advice you think you'd offer them?
Gosh, just being authentic, being real. Authenticity is a real vibe, believe it or not. And when we kind of go inward and get quiet, get into nature, listen to that voice within the GPS, the God positioning system, and when we are true to ourselves through those choices that we make, you're going to see a lot better outcome. And I think working with someone is very helpful. I know for me, I didn't just like wake up and know everything. Like I've had great mentors. I've had other people who could kind of see what I wasn't seeing and introduce some new concepts to me that were never introduced to me before, and help me get a little more perspective on ways that I could change myself. And I mean, that's the beauty of us all being so diverse and having different paths and different strengths. I may not have all of it and you do, and or maybe you can help me have all of it. And dogs.
Hey, dogs, very, very important in their life. Yes, they will certainly get your heart racing, and that will improve your flow.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry.
Well,
I work
wonderful.
at a shelter. I actually work at a animal shelter part time, and so we constantly have animals here. That's one fun thing. But yes.
Well, there you go. Wonderful. Well, hey, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show and then enlightening our listeners. Where can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, if you go to drsharnael.com, it's DRSHARNAEL, drsharnael.com. I actually just put up a free resource for anyone who goes there. There should be, if it's working right, a pop up that comes up that says, "Hey, do you want to learn more about clearing trauma?" If you give me your email, that's going to give you a free download that you'll get in your mailbox or your email to kind of get you in this and get the ball rolling for whatever it is that you may be trying to create on your own end. But yeah, there's a lot of great resources. My books are there, my card deck, biofeedback. I do coaching. My podcast is there. I have a ton of workshops, and I travel and teach in a lot of places. I'm actually going to be in New York this
Oh,
month. I'm going to Tampa later on in this month too. I just came back from LA and Miami this in the last 2 weeks. So I'm out and about quite a bit if you want to see me live. And also, if you can't make it to one of my events, then you can always just catch a workshop. I have a lot of online materials that people can participate in, and you can get all of it right there in your computer or your phone or whatever.
well, that sounds fantastic. Sounds like people are able to get in contact with you. That's amazing. Well, thank you again, and thank you everybody for listening to the show today. Hope you got a lot from Dr. Charnel. It's been a very interesting conversation, and as always, if you are getting a lot of content, a lot of information that you enjoy from this podcast, please like and subscribe. That way, you'll get the episodes every week into your email, into your feed, and you'll just keep on getting more of this wonderful content. So, with that, I'll sign off and send you love and light. And this is Chris, and I will see you next time. Until then, bye for now. All right.
Awesome. I'm so sorry about the interference here
No, it's
or
all
the
right.